What is up, baseball fans? I am Jason Burgos for Sportsnaut, and I have the great pleasure of being joined by one of the premier reporters in the baseball game. He currently serves as a columnist and insider for USA Today, and that is the one and only Bob Nightengale. Senor Nightengale, thanks so much for the time today.
My pleasure, Jason.
So first, I wanted to talk about the Yankees. They are arguably the best team in baseball, really aren't even at full strength yet. While people can knock some of Brian Cashman's offseason moves over the years, he's often great before the trade deadline and some of the stuff he does. What do you feel they do before the deadline this year? Is it improve second and first base? Is it bullpen? And is the move a big splash, or do they go more the slick under the radar move Cashman is known for?
Probably more the under the radar move. And they'd love to get a Ryan McMahon from the Rockies. I don't think he'll be available, but I could see him definitely get a corner infielder. Also, go get some bullpen help, rotation help. They're set there, but I would think a corner infielder and late inning bullpen help.
Well, it's still months away. Us and almost every other baseball sports site has covered Juan Soto's impending free agency and all the effects of that. Yankees fans would like to believe winning in New York should be able to kind of persuade him towards re-signing and a return. But from what you've heard, your gut from all these years being in the business covering the sport, because of Boras and his influence on him, is his jump into free agency about absolutely getting the most money possible? And if it's from rumored teams like the Nationals or even the Giants, he'll go there. It's not just about playing in New York for the Yankees.
No, I think he wants, the top dollar. I do think he, prefer the East Coast, but he loves San Diego. I think he wanted to stay there, to tell you the truth. Right now, besides the Yankees and Mets, who's going to bid on this guy? Could the Giants? Maybe, but Giants don't want to be used. I don't see anybody else. If the Yankees, are you really going to give him much more than $360? I mean, that's Aaron Judge's contract. Face of the franchise, arguably still the best player in baseball. The Mets could come in for a higher figure. So it's not like a bidding war. There's only like a couple of teams that'll be involved. It's like having a mansion in a mid-sized neighborhood. How many people can afford this thing?
And, there's all this talk. I mean, there was talk before he turned down, like after the 450, he turned down. It was like, okay, maybe he'll get 500. Now there's, speculating, okay, maybe he'll get 600. Maybe he'll get well into 600. And especially with the Yankees and Hal Steinbrenner talking about how, I kind of don't want to go past a certain point. I think we can win games at a certain money amount. Is there a point you think that if he asks for a certain amount, the Yankees go, okay, no, that's just too much for us, even the Yankees?
Oh, I do. I mean, I think if Aaron Judge had said, okay, I got to have over 400, it would said, see you later. I think there's a point there. And, hey, let's be honest. I mean, if Soto was doing what he's doing in New York and San Diego would have kept him. Underperformed there. Put up big-time numbers when they were out of the race, but very disappointing, in his time there. Which one Soto are you getting? I mean, obviously a lot of guys put up big numbers in their walk year. When a guy signs a contract, what happens to him? I know he's young, but a lot of people think he might be a first baseman or DH in a few years. They don't have a DH in Stanton, so we'll see. I don't see the big bidding war for him. I really don't. When people talk about 600, 700, that's not happening. It happened for Ohtani because he sells tickets. He sells a lot of tickets and makes the team a lot of money. Soto doesn't make the team a lot of money.
I next wanted to ask about the Orioles, who have quietly been keeping pace with the Yankees all year. They are on the cusp, really, doing big things. Corbin Burns was a real nice addition. He's lived up to the expectation. Do they use this amazing farm system and swing big for a big blockbuster trade, big blockbuster move, especially since they have new ownership and everything? And if they don't, are they kind of taking a big risk? Because all these prospects can't be good, and we kind of saw how things go with Holiday early this year.
It's the GM, Mike Elias, used to be the assistant GM of the Astros. So it's going to be a carbon copy. You use some of those prospects to go pitching help. Houston did it by getting Verlander and Garrett Cole. And that's why, Baltimore, you saw him do it with Corbin Burns. So I expect him to go get another big-time starter as well. And but you're right. I mean, you don't have room for all those guys. And so far, they've hit on everybody in that draft. So we'll see. But I expect him to be right there. I mean, nobody has more young talent than the Baltimore Orioles. I mean, they're loaded. They're going to be great for the next 4 or 5 years.
Last year there was Scherzer and Verlander. Both obviously happened to come from the Mets. Those are those big names, those big guys you go after. Is there a pitcher that is, is it the Orioles maybe have a fair case in that maybe there's not a pitcher worth like one of their top 10 prospect? Is there a guy that they feel can make that big splash that they can add? I mean, Cease got traded already. Like, who's that guy that can be that number 2 with Burns?
The guy that could be. The trouble is he's pitched career high innings already. Garrett Crochet from the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's pitching better than this kid. Last 3 starts is dominant. His last start last night, 13 strikeouts, all but 1 fastballs, just electric stuff. But he's thrown over 80 innings already. He's thrown more pitch innings this year than he has his entire career. So the White Sox are planning on shutting him down the second half. So if you trade for him, what are you going to get for the trade during the September? Can you really pitch him in October? I know you got him for 2 more years after this. He's only making $800,000. So, he's a steal, but you don't know about how much he can pitch the rest of the season.
Speaking of quietly keeping pace, the Guardians, Mariners have been very good this year. However, they're still mid-market clubs. It always has its limitations. What plays do you feel would be like the perfect addition for either team? And that's maybe somewhat realistic to kind of help them compete with the Yankees and the Orioles in the playoffs.
Well, if you're the Mariners, you need some more offense. So, do they trade for Pete Alonso for the Mets to go get that first baseman? I think they need a thump in there. He provides it. Obviously, he's a radic hitter, or else the Mets would have signed him already. So, I would think Alonso would be perfect there. The Kansas City Royals really need another outfielder. So, who isn't? Maybe they get a Marte for the Mets or something like that. Josh Bell, the first baseman, is available for the Marlins. But all they need, too, same thing, is another big bat because they can pitch.
A lot of people are really high on the Mariners pitching staff. Do you feel that their staff is good enough that, you just get a couple of breaks and you can beat some of these elite teams to get to the World Series? Or like you mentioned, like the lack of a thump, it's such a strong weakness that if they don't address it, they're kind of going into the stretch, the second half of the season, the playoffs, with like a major limitation.
I mean, they're scary. I mean, because of that pitching. Remember that year when the Astros won the World Series a couple years ago? I mean, they were losing. They could have lost those 3 games easily to Seattle Mariners. Nobody wants to play Seattle Mariners. I don't care if the Yankees or Orioles. That's a nightmare because if those guys line up and go lights out, you're done. And it's about pitching and defense in the playoffs. It's not about who scores the most runs because those offenses get shut down.
Okay, my final question on the AL is on the Astros. This has been a very disappointing season, but all the rumblings have been they still could be buyers before July 30. What's your gut tell you about that? Do you put a player? Do they go to the position? Maybe they put a Bregman on the block. Maybe they're sellers instead, or do you feel that they're just still hoping they find a way to evolve into being buyers before the deadline? They still can maybe make a playoff run.
I think they want to be buyers. I think they think, okay, we have Valdez and Verlander in the playoffs. You get McCullers back. Let's see what happens. So I don't see him selling. I really don't. I think they'd have to have a big free fall here for the next month, and they do. A guy like Bregman, I mean, that's a perfect guy for the Yankees. And he's the type of personality that thrives in that type of market. So I think he'd be a great fit. But I don't see Astros selling. I think they still go for this thing, knowing that, you get hot in the postseason, anything can happen.
Now that they've officially moved on from Jose Abreu, do you think that possibly that makes Pete Alonso maybe their top kind of target going into next month?
They need a first baseman. The production from first base is the second worst in the Rockies in all of baseball. So I just don't know if they give up a big-time prospect to go get Alonso. And I'm sure the Mets will ask for a lot, knowing that everybody needs home run hitters, big home run hitter, very streaky, obviously. The Mets would hope that, okay, maybe he comes back, we give him the right price in the offseason. So, no, he would be a perfect type of candidate. Maybe they go on a cheaper thing. So, you know what? We can get a Josh Bell for pretty much free for the Marlins, making $16 million. If we pick up the rest of his salary, they'll probably give him to us.
The Nationals, the Reds, the Pirates, all are kind of like showing signs that their real rebuilds are really kind of going in the direction they want. It's really coming along fast now. The Reds showed a lot last year, though they've regressed a little bit this year. Of those three teams, which do you feel will be the first to become kind of like a consistent 500 team, competitive team, and why?
The Reds are scary. I mean, they got a great array of young talent, great young pitching. Just wait for them to put together. I picked them to win the division. I don't know if that's going to happen, but so they're almost like the National League version of the Orioles. Not that much deep in talent, but young guys like Ellie De La Cruz, the Hunter Green, Lodello, Ashcroft in rotation. So I think that's a team that get in. They can do some damage too. But I think they go for it. I think Pittsburgh's a year away. I think the Nationals are a year away.
The Braves have been, just had awful luck. Two top players out for the season. It's starting to have an effect. They're almost the double digits now behind the Phillies and the National League East. Would they actually kind of throw up the white flag, say, look, this season's not going to work out. We're not going to do enough to compete with the Phillies, the Dodgers, some of these teams. Or, if they do, who's the player that they can get that kind of can salvage this and maybe give them some kind of hope in the second half?
Yeah, no, they'll never give up. It's way too good of a fan base, way too big of an atmosphere. I don't care if 30 games back. They're not selling there. They want like a Zach Eflin would be perfect for them. They need another veteran starter. They grab some outfielders off the scrap heap. A guy like Tommy Pham or something like that. But there's no way they give up. And it's still a very good team. They've been underachieving. So, but nobody wants to face them in the playoffs either, just because they've been there, done that. They know how to win.
Last question now. The Dodgers threw an epic amount of money to improve the team this year. While they are good, maybe, not destroying it like everybody expected and stuff like that. Do they have the assets to make a big move before the deadline? Or do they kind of do like the Yankees you mentioned? Do they go more savvy, more small pieces, little things here and there, kind of like they did with Biggio this week?
They can be as aggressive as any team in baseball. I think the expectations, the pressure on them is greater than any team in baseball. Hey, if the Yankees get to the ALCS and lose, hey, great season. If the Dodgers get to NLCS and lose, it was a nightmare of a season. They better get to a World Series. They better, at least get the World Series and not win it, or fans are going to be furious with expectations built to win championship right now. So the bottom of the lineup is a big struggle. So they could use a guy like Luis Robert from the White Sox. They could use another starter, to get in that rotation, some bullpen help. So I think they'll be aggressive, really do. They used to have way too much money, too much advertising money come in to not be aggressive.